So we just talked about that. All right, I'm going to move to the group level. All right, groups can learn too. Here is a story. The story is that how many of you know, whether, unfortunately maybe you've never had to do it yourself, that one of the most important questions if you ever have to have a surgical procedure of any kind, what is the most important question you're supposed to ask the surgeon? How many of these have you done before? Well, it turns out, thank you, I just got a tweet. It turns out that it is not a good predictor of outcomes as a second question, which is, how many of these have you done before with this team in this hospital? And it's a better predictor. You can take a surgeon who is acclaimed for world-class outcomes and move him or her to another hospital, and they drop back down to average until they've had a number of team-based surgeries under the belt. Do we have a doctor in the house? We do. Okay. She's actually a surgeon. So what would you say, Naya, that feels right? It's the ability to execute as a group. So groups learn how to do processes together. And that's why functions are great. That's why, here's what knowledge management brings to that. I'm not a huge fan of organizational restructuring, because what happens is it breaks up groups who have become productive and know how to effectively share with one another. However, you have to do it. Every once in a while, markets change, geos change, new products come on. You have to do it. The antidote to that is communities of practice, because communities of practice can persist beyond organizational structure. And you do have to do restructuring every once in a while. So that's just one comment on group learning that I wanted to share with you. And communities can retain the knowledge even when the individuals get sent off to another geo or get sent off to another product line. So, I really believe that communities of practice are still KM's killer app. That if there's a phrase in the United States, a political phrase, that if things, when you start to really have to make sure you're going to win an election, but you've got limited resources, the first thing you do is protect the base. And I'd maintain if you get limited resources in knowledge management budget, first thing you do is protect the base. Make sure that your communities are getting the kind of resources that they need, because they still are the killer app. Schlumberger is a great example of that. Susan, where are you? They've been at it for a long time. Persistence there you both are. Good. Welcome. And so it started in 1998. They had 15th anniversary last year. They got 50 self-governing communities of practice, most of them very technically oriented, chemists, field engineers, petroleum, geoscientists, et cetera. And it turns out that this is also a career opportunity for people. Leading a community of practice is a necessary step along the path to moving up the technical network. And it turns out that Susan, who just got another promotion, I think, recently, leads both the KM effort and the technical talent management effort. So they have to come through you to go, yeah, they do. So, and they just had their 15th anniversary. Here's some stats about them. I'll let Susan cover. They're going to be presenting later. She can cover some of those. But 31,000 members, 7 million hits on what are their career networking profiles, where people can talk about their own expertise. 7,000 technical leaders have passed through here. So you can see why this is built into the fabric. These groups are built into the fabric of Schlumberger and how it functions. Here's another example, one of my favorites. I'll give a shout out to ConocoPhillips. So raise your hand if you're from ConocoPhillips or ever were. All right, good, good. So they've got 111 technical communities, these networks of about 13,000 people. You guys have been doing this since 2004, is that right? 2004? And hundreds of millions in documented savings. We're very proud of that, and a lot of recognition for that. So the sustainability of this, I think, really is because the communities in both of these cases are directly related to the way that, in this case, ConocoPhillips and Schlumberger make their living. Here's what I have noticed over 20 years, that the closer your knowledge management efforts are to how the organization makes money, the more sustainable and the stronger it is. Don't get stuck out in some boondocks somewhere with KM.